Most exhausting days are not ruined by one major disaster. They are worn down by dozens of tiny moments. Where should I stand? Which button should I press? Can I fit the car into that space? Where do I put the money? Did I misunderstand the instructions? Each question seems insignificant, but when these questions appear from morning to night, they create a quiet kind of mental fatigue. Japan offers an interesting lesson here. In many Japanese environments, the goal is not simply to make people move faster, it is to reduce how often they must stop, guess, negotiate, or ask for help. A painted line shows you where to wait. A small tray shows you where the money goes. A machine stores the car. A familiar evening routine tells the body that the active part of the day is over. None of these systems is perfect, and not every place in Japan works in exactly the same way. But together, they reveal a powerful design principle. The easiest life is not always the one with the most choices. Sometimes, it is the one with fewer unnecessary decisions. In this video, we will explore 7 Japanese systems that quietly make everyday life feel lighter. And near the end, we will look at one idea that requires no special technology and can be adapted in almost any home. Let us begin in one of the busiest places in Japan, a train station during the morning rush. Hundreds of people are moving around you. A train will arrive in less than a minute, but you do not know where the doors will open, where the line begins, or whether passengers should exit on the left or the right. Without guidance, everyone must negotiate the same space at once. Many Japanese stations reduce that uncertainty, with markings placed directly on the platform. Lines show where to wait. Numbers may identify train cars. Arrows help separate passengers leaving the train from those preparing to board. At large stations, the markings can still look complicated. Different train services may use different colors or stopping positions. Yet the basic idea is remarkably useful. Place the instruction exactly where the decision occurs. The floor becomes part of the information system. This matters because crowds are often stressful not simply because there are many people, but because nobody knows what everyone else is about to do. When people line up in a visible pattern, movement becomes more predictable. Passengers can leave first. Those waiting do not need to defend their position. The crowd begins to coordinate without a conversation. This is a recurring feature of thoughtful Japanese design. Considerate behavior is not left entirely to memory or good intentions. The environment supports it. Instead of repeatedly telling people to behave better, the space makes the considerate action easier to see. That same principle appears in a much smaller interaction, one that may last only a few seconds. At the checkout counter of many Japanese shops, you will find a small payment tray. It may be made of plastic, metal, or rubber. Sometimes it sits beside the register so quietly that a visitor barely notices it. But this simple object solves several problems at once. Coins do not have to pass directly from one moving hand to another. The customer can place the full amount in a visible location, allowing the cashier to see and count it clearly. Change can be returned in the same organized space. There is less chance of a coin falling, 2 hands colliding, or either person wondering whether the exchange is complete. The tray creates a neutral space between 2 people. This became especially useful when people wanted less physical contact, but its value goes beyond hygiene. It turns payment into a clear sequence, rather than an awkward hand-to-hand negotiation. Digital payment is now common across Japan, particularly in urban areas. Yet payment trays remain familiar because good physical design does not immediately become useless when technology changes. The deeper lesson is not that every shop in the world needs the same tray. It is that repeated interactions benefit from having a clear landing place. Keys beside the entrance, mail in one basket, bills in one folder, and charging cables in one location all follow the same principle. When an object has an obvious destination, the mind no longer has to invent one each time. The next example takes this idea one step further. It does not merely give an object a destination. It connects two everyday actions that normally happen separately. In some Japanese homes, the toilet tank has a small faucet and basin built into the top. After the toilet is flushed, fresh water flows from the faucet. A person can use that water to rinse their hands. It then drains into the tank, where it is stored for the next flush. The hand-washing water does not flow directly into the toilet bowl. It enters the tank first, just as the normal refill water would. This arrangement can be especially useful in a compact toilet room, where adding a separate sink would require more floor space and plumbing. What makes the design memorable is not its appearance. It is the connection between three actions. Flush the toilet, rinse your hands, refill the tank. Instead of treating these as disconnected moments, the design links them into one sequence. It may not suit every home. Some people prefer washing with soap at a full-size sink, and Japanese bathroom layouts vary widely. But the question behind the design is useful almost anywhere. Are there two actions in your daily life that could share one location, one tool, or one movement? A laundry basket placed where clothes are normally removed works this way. So does a charging station located where devices are naturally set down. Convenience often comes not from adding another product, but from placing existing actions in a better order. Inside a home, this can save a few steps. In a crowded city, the same way of thinking can save an enormous amount of space. Parking is a difficult problem in many dense Japanese neighborhoods. Roads can be narrow, land is valuable, and a large surface parking lot may not be practical. One response is the mechanical parking structure. Depending on the system, a driver positions the vehicle on a platform. Machinery then moves it vertically or horizontally into a storage space inside the structure. Some systems resemble narrow towers. Others use stacked platforms in apartment buildings or commercial garages. For the driver, this changes the nature of parking. Instead of circling through several levels and repeatedly judging whether a narrow space is large enough, the driver follows a controlled sequence. Position the vehicle, secure it, step outside, then allow the system to store it. There are still limitations. The vehicle must fit the system, safety instructions must be followed, and retrieving a car may require a short wait. Mechanical parking is not a perfect answer for every building or every driver. Its real significance is that it treats limited space as a design constraint instead of pretending that the constraint does not exist. When horizontal space is scarce, storage moves vertically. When a repeated maneuver creates difficulty, a machine can perform that maneuver in a more controlled way. This lesson reaches far beyond cars. A small home becomes easier to use when storage follows the shape of the available space. Narrow shelves, wall hooks, and vertical organizers can preserve open floor area without requiring a larger room. Good design often begins with an honest acceptance of limits, followed by a calmer way to live within them. But physical space is not the only thing that becomes limited. Attention does too, especially when we are carrying too many objects at once. Picture arriving in Japan with a large suitcase. You want to explore a neighborhood before checking into your next hotel, but every staircase, train transfer, and crowded sidewalk now feels more difficult. Japan's parcel delivery network offers another approach. At many hotels, convenience stores, airports, and service counters, Travelers can arrange to send luggage or packages to another address. Availability, cost, and delivery time depend on the route and the provider, so some planning is still required. But the larger idea is simple. The movement of a person and the movement of an object do not always have to happen at the same time. That separation can change the experience of a journey. A traveler may move through a station with fewer bags, take a short side trip, or avoid pulling a heavy suitcase through a crowded street. Coin lockers at many stations serve a similar purpose on a smaller scale. They create a temporary home for an object while its owner continues the day. This is another form of friction reduction. Remove what does not need to be carried right now. The same principle works at home. Items used only once a season do not need to occupy the easiest shelf. Papers waiting for action should not travel from table to table. Objects become mentally heavy when they have no temporary destination. Sometimes, organization is not about deciding where something will remain forever. It is simply about giving it a safe place for the next few hours. So far, these examples have reduced physical uncertainty. But some of the most tiring decisions are social ones. In many countries, paying for a restaurant meal includes a final calculation. How much should be added? Was the service good enough? What percentage is expected? Will the amount appear generous, careless, or disrespectful? In Japan, tipping is generally not customary in ordinary restaurants, cafes, taxis, and hotels. There are limited exceptions in certain private or traditional situations, but most customers simply pay the stated bill. This does not mean that every restaurant experience is identical, or that every charge is immediately obvious. Some establishments may include a service fee, table charge, or small appetizer charge. The important difference is that customers are usually not required to evaluate the worker and translate that personal evaluation into a percentage. The exchange becomes more predictable. Predictability is sometimes mistaken for boredom, but in everyday systems, it can be a form of kindness. It allows people to prepare, reduces embarrassment, and keeps a pleasant meal from ending with an uncertain social test. The lesson is not that every country should adopt the same payment culture. Tipping customs are connected to local wages, laws, and expectations. The more useful question is smaller. Where does your life repeatedly require an unnecessary negotiation? A clear family rule, a written price, a shared calendar, or an agreed division of responsibilities can remove the need to renegotiate the same situation every week. And this brings us to the final system. It requires no train platform, delivery network, or special machine. It is simply a deliberate transition between activity and rest. In a common Japanese bathing routine, the body is washed before entering the bathtub. The bath is then used for soaking rather than scrubbing. This helps keep the bathwater cleaner, but it also changes the purpose of the experience. Washing completes a task. Soaking creates a pause. In public bathhouses and natural hot spring baths, the separation can feel even clearer. Shoes, clothing, and phones are left behind. The body moves through a familiar sequence: change, wash, rinse, soak, cool down, dress again. Not everyone in Japan follows the same routine, and hot bathing is not appropriate for every person or health condition. But as a design pattern, the sequence is powerful because it gives the mind and body a recognizable signal. The active part of the day is ending. Modern life often lacks such boundaries. People answer work messages in bed, carry their phones through dinner, and move from bright screens directly into an attempt to sleep. The body changes location, but the mind never receives a transition. You do not need a Japanese bathroom to apply this idea. A A small evening ritual can serve the same purpose. Dim the lights, take a comfortable shower, prepare a warm drink, put the phone in another room, spend 10 quiet minutes without inviting new information into the mind. The specific ritual matters less than its consistency. Repeated in the same order, it becomes an environmental cue. Rest no longer begins only when exhaustion wins. It begins when the ritual says it is time. These 7 systems may appear unrelated. One organizes a train platform, another holds a few coins, one stores a car, one redirects water, and one changes how a day ends. But all of them respond to the same hidden problem. Ordinary life asks the mind to make too many small decisions. Thoughtful design removes some of those decisions. It tells us where to stand, where to place something, what happens next, and when one part of the day is complete. Japan does not eliminate inconvenience. Japanese cities can be crowded, complex, and tiring, just like cities anywhere else. The deeper lesson is not that Japan has created a perfect way of living. It is that a little more calm can sometimes be designed into an ordinary day. Look around your own routine. Notice the moment when you repeatedly hesitate. Search, carry, calculate, or negotiate. Then ask one simple question. Could the environment answer this question for me? Which of these 7 Japanese ideas would make the biggest difference in your daily life? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring practical ideas and quiet wisdom from Japan, subscribe to Inside Japanese Living. A better life does not always require a dramatic transformation. Sometimes, it begins by removing one small piece of friction. Simple habits, deep wisdom, better life.